Okay, people, today let's take a quick look at the Walmart exclusive Hasbro Marvel Legends Uncanny X-Men Warlord Professor X with Shi'ar armor, or Shi'armor if you're nasty. I wasn't going to review this because it's basically a standard Marvel Legends body with a couple of new heads, an armor piece over the shoulders, a cape. We're done. Later. But then I spent half of last night finishing up a custom that I've been working on for a good long while that goes right beside this figure. And when I started looking at this closer, I may try to tweak something here. So we'll look at the figure, have a little play day action at the end, and just basically have some fun, you know? Looking at the packaging, it's what we're seeing with the retro card. It's a callback to something, either comic art or logos or old figures and their packaging. Like this, looking like this, the X-Men logo. I love that. The burst, the name, the figure, what else we got? Oh, warning, choking hazard, small parts. Don't put the toy in your mouth. I don't know how many times I've got to say that, but I'm going to keep on saying it. On the back, yet more nostalgia tug with this, and then a bio for Xavier in his Warlord costume, and then a pretty promotional shot, X-Men logo in a different color, more warnings, small parts, legalese, barcode, more warnings. So let's get this open, see what's going on here. This thing, they never like to stand. Getting him out of the package, he has that Xavier plainness in places, especially on the body, but I think the new parts make up for that. But all this time, I thought they were reusing the body that they used for the Krakoa Xavier with that new style Cerebro helmet, but it's not. This is the old tried and true Sunfire Minius Spider-Man body. The biggest giveaway is the duck feet, but they did update the elbows and knees to be pinless, so that's kind of cool for people who enjoy that kind of thing. I like it because he's not a little scrawny Xavier. That's what threw me about this, which I don't know if it's accurate or not. I never read this, but this, he has that Jim Lee-ish kind of bulk to him. It's not huge muscles, but it's bigger than this. So I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, it still has the downfalls of that original body, like the kind of bubbly muscle. As compared to the shoulder, I wish that was a little bigger for a lot of the bodies. And then, like I mentioned, those feet. Otherwise, I like the proportions. It's a good medium body, but it's still a good medium body molded all in black plastic with some blue stripes on the torso and upper legs. Now, before we get too far into that, this overall look is based on the interior art. There he had the silver armor and the blue highlights and blue cape, which I like that we got in action figure form first because it goes right alongside Lalandra. Our outfits match for the reunion. Everyone will know we're a couple. But Hasbro, don't think you're off the hook for the cover of X-Men 275 in the gold armor with the magenta cape and highlights. That also works for his X-Men 97 appearance for the most part, so I have a sneaking suspicion we'll see him later on in either that or a repack of this. But anyway, the paint on the body is just blue stripes. There is a couple of nicks here and there, but for the most part, it does what it needs to do. I'm more interested in the silver helmet and shoulder armor. The silver has a nice gleam to it for being molded in that color. It doesn't have the swirls or the twirls, the marbleization, as people like to call it. It's just a nice, shiny silver. Until you get around to the front, and there they've added blue paint highlights to kind of emulate the comic book look. And while we don't see that a lot in Marvel Legends, I appreciate it here because it really spices up a plain design. I'm gonna say that several times. Black bodysuit, helmet, shoulder armor, cape. But that does kind of set it apart from Lalandra. They got the matching colors and silvers, but then the highlights here would have been cool to see on here. It's the same for the back of the cape, and I know this is a sea of blue with blue on blue action going on, but there's almost a greenish highlight running down the very top of these wrinkles. You can see it kind of fading off into the plastic color there, but that wasn't done on Lalandra. But the sculpt matches up perfectly. That Shi'ar technology is amazing. The head and helmet is actually 3 parts, and if I pull that off, you can see there is the inner head under the helmet. Then there's this rubbery brow piece that goes up to these and is glued across the forehead. The shoulder armor and the cape are separate pieces glued together because silver plastic, blue plastic. And that's also soft too. The part coming out over the shoulders flexes out of the way for arm movement. But then we're left with this again. your basic body. Would have been cool in soft goods, but it also wouldn't look like this. I don't know. It's always a trade-off. I like soft goods better, but if it's just standing on the shelf, then I like the dynamic look of a sculpted cape too. He's just making excuses for Hasbro for giving him the plastic cape. Articulation-wise though, since the collar comes up and the helmet goes down and out the back, there's not a lot of up movement. Some down though, a little bit of tilt. To me, my X-Men. Well, I mentioned this being flexy to get out of the way of the arm movement. You're still not going to be able to rotate all the way around on the pin coming out to the shoulder. It just runs right into the cape. There's a hinge that goes up to there. Swivel at the bicep, double elbow, swivel at the wrist with a hinge in and out. Your standard crunchticles goes forward and arcs back. Swivel at the waist. Ball coming out to the hip, kicks forward and back and out. This is a Spider-Man body, so it doesn't go all the way up. Cut at the thigh. Double knee. Oh yeah, I'm the warlord of this ass. Swivel mid-shin. Hinge at the ankle goes way back, forward, and front-facing pin for rocker. For accessories, he has 2 relaxed hands, which I really like. I don't even want to swap them out. But if I wanted to, there's also 2 fists included. Krakoa Professor X has this 2-finger pointer thing going on. I wonder if you could swap those out. The color even matches pretty good. I mean, again, black bodysuits. And then you can also do the big reveal from the comics because there is an alternate unhelmeted head. Something unsettling about that. Something unnerving. Are you the real Professor X? Fantastic paint apps though. And if you don't want to use it here, it'll swap back to some of the other Xaviers to spruce those up. Oh, one thing I just did, even with the cape and the big old head up on top, it was not a problem to get standing straight up and down into neutral position. I guess because of the duck feet. This Xavier stands at slightly under 6.5 inches to the top of the helmet, but up to the horns is almost 6 3/4, which is quite a bit of size compared to the Professor X that came with the hover chair, and quite a bit of bulk compared to the Krakoa Professor X. And then here's the Warlord head compared to the Professor X head, since I had those swapped out. This is an MCU claw with the vest removed, and then the arms from a multi-armed Spider-Man. And just to get that comparison in, it's another Xavier. Here it is with the X-Men 275 3-packs and then Wolverine. Here's Gladiator and Fang, who are related. Maybe team them up with some Starjammers? But this is where he'll be in my display, between Lilandra and Deathbird, or the social distancing family because of how the wings and the cape stick out. Deathbird is a Marvel Legends Age of Apocalypse Shadowcat with parts and pieces off the old 5-inch Deathbird. The wings, the gauntlets, the little skull on the chest. Oh, and then the feather collar. The head is from Anthanatos Unlimited on Etsy. I'll get into the specifics more on the next play day, but since I was opening this and I have this, I had to have this. Hasbro, again, don't leave us hanging. We need a Deathbird. Since we're talking play day, one of the things I noticed on this figure through the package was the eye position. Or, well, I guess it would be helmet position on the head. See how the eyes are kind of low, kind of looking out of the bottom, and even when you kick it down, well, that does look better. But I'd like for the eyes to be higher in the helmet holes. But it's also kind of crooked, like this one's drifting down under a little bit more than this one. So what I'm going to attempt to do is heat this up, try not to tear this faceplate piece off, pull the helmet or peel the helmet off the head, and see what I can do about dropping it just a little. Okay, it took quite a bit of heat and quite a bit of prying, but I finally got it, well, finally got it off. There was a glob of glue right there. See how it sticks up higher on this side? And then there's also a little plastic stuck up in there on that same side, on top of that little hump. But this is what the head looks like underneath. The eyes are a little chipped on the outer edges right there. I don't know if I did that by heating this up, or if I did it shoving a screwdriver up under the helmet and prying. I tried not to get around to the front, but maybe I nicked it. But I'm going to snip that little bit of plastic off right there, or glue, I guess. Then I'm going to try to get up there and get that too. Didn't seem to do much. I think with a lot more time of snipping things away, I could get the helmet to sit lower. But as is, there's this angle and this angle, and I took a little bit off here to try to get it down. There's this groove in the forehead that's holding the helmet up. It's shaped perfectly. So in order to get it down more, you'd have to zik, zoot, here, and everything. Taking that little glob of paint out, I was able to straighten the helmet up. Oh, not how but I get on camera. I was able to straighten the helmet up a bit more. And yeah, I did come back in and paint the eye back to solid and then put the eyelash back. But if nothing else, I can have Creepy Charles holding the helmet like this instead of strategically hiding the face. Actually, that's not gonna work with the nose, dang it. But if I were to take that groove right there out, maybe? So at the end of the day, a great addition to a great display. Although we're not done yet. We need more Imperial Guard, we need more Starjammers, we need Deathbird, and yes, we need Warlord Professor X in the gold armor. I nearly bought a second one to do it, but I waited too long, and now up on Walmart.com, it's $37 instead of $24.99. If I ever see it at the store or the price goes back down, I may snag it, but you gotta think, Hasbro's gotta do it. It's just molding it in gold and then changing the blues to magenta. There's more X-Men 97 figures coming. They could slip it into there, even though I think in X-Men 97, he had more armor pieces down low or in places, but it would still work. It's kind of that, here's something for either your animated display or your comic book display. It's too easy to pass. The more I talk about it, the more I realize that it's gotta happen. I don't know if it's worth going through the trouble of prying the helmet off, but I just had to try. I had to see what was going on. And yeah, well, actually right now I can see that it's working itself up off the head. I may have to glue it back down again. As it sits, it kind of, oh, well, maybe when I went to pose it, I knocked the helmet up a little bit because, I don't know. And I guess the eyes are straighter. But you do whatever you want to do. They're your toys. Have fun with them.